All right, let's turn now to the group of five, high five round robin of the week here in week number 8. And I'm going to get started with the G5 game of the week, which is Coastal Carolina traveling to Boone to play App State. This is an opportunity for Coastal to really assert their dominance. Obviously, they've been nationally ranked the whole season. Their offense has been on fire, but App State is still historically one of those programs that has had great success in the Sun Belt. And I don't really think you can consider yourself the top dog unless you can go into Boone and push them around. And here's the thing, the Chants have scored 49 points or more in all but one game this season. And they've done it with a great blending of run and pass. Their top 3 leading rushers all average over 7.2 yards per carry. And then you look at what they've been able to do with future NFL tight end Isaiah Likely. This kid is playing his way. If he has a good combine, I wouldn't be shocked if he was a second-round draft pick. So for a program that 2 or 3 years ago was, a cute story transitioning from the FCS level up to, the Sun Belt, they are quickly turning into a little mini NFL draft factory. And when you factor in Grayson McCall and how steady he's been this year, he gives them not only the kind of command of the offense, doesn't turn the ball over, knows how to get them out of bad plays, is a dual threat in his own right. He's just given them this, they're brimming with confidence, and it comes from him. And when I look at the other side, the quarterback for App State, it's kind of going in the opposite direction. We were worried about Chase Bryce coming into the season. He was absolutely exposed last week against Louisiana. His QBR, I think, checked in at 26. Threw a pair of picks. He also had some issues with turnovers against Marshall. And really, for my money, having watched App State a decent amount this year, there's just a huge difference when Cameron Peoples is on the field when he's not. And he's another game time decision here. And if he comes in and he's dinged up, I think they're going to have real issues moving the football. For a team that was supposed to be deep at the running back position, they only go for 2.7 yards per carry against Louisiana in his absence last week. That's not going to cut it against Coastal. So I'm going to go ahead and cheat a little bit here, take the money line. Not that there was a huge backdoor risk, laying 4 points in this game, but I'll go minus 200 with the Chants and get this round robin started.
How fitting that I've been against Chase Bryce all year. I've been nervous of him all year. I finally flipped the switch and I bet them last week against Louisiana, and boom, he immediately turns back into a pumpkin like that. I knew he was going to all year. The second I was like, maybe he's figured it out. Nope. He's still Chase Bryce. I like it. I like the Chants here. I agree with you. For my first pick, you talked about how successful we've been in this group of five, high five. We've been successful because we bet Fresno State every year, every week, and they're an absolute wagon. So obviously I'm taking the Bulldogs again. This is going to be an awesome game, by the way. Jake Haener, Carson So Strong, probably the 2 best quarterbacks in the group of 5. Obviously we talk at length. Haener, Cropper, Kelly. Fresno offense is awesome. Nevada's offense has been great too. Carson So Strong, Romeo Dubs, Cole Turner, Torrey Horton. This game to me comes down to defense. First of all, we talked about Jake Haener. I think this is the Ronnie Rivers game we've been waiting for. We haven't gotten it. We haven't had the Ronnie Rivers game. I'm calling it now. This is the Ronnie Rivers game. Nevada's defense is 125th in the country in rushing success rate. They are 105th in line yards, and they are 100th in tackling. And now they have to try to stop that little jitterbug, Ronnie Rivers. Day Hunter for Hawaii went for 174 yards and 2 touchdowns on 8 carries last week. He ended up getting hurt late, but that's a pretty efficient day. And Ronnie Rivers is very similar to Hunter in the kind of their style. Oh, also, by the way, Nevada is also 79th at defending the pass. So it's not like they're really that good at anything. So for me, this comes down to Fresno State's defense, they're awesome. They're one of the best defensives in the group of 5. Obviously, Cincinnati's number 1 and San Diego State, but Fresno State's up there. Their secondary is 5th in the country at pass success. And Nevada's not as balanced as, Fresno State. They don't run the ball very well. They rely on Carson So Strong in that arm. Bulldogs 5th the country in pass success, 20th at preventing big plays. So I think the Fresno State defense is way better than the Nevada defense. And I think the offenses are probably a push. So I'll take the better defense at home, laying only 3 points. Give me the Bulldogs. They've been great to us so far. I'm going to keep going to them until they let us down. So give me Fresno State -3 against Nevada.
Yeah, I was a little bit surprised. I also dug into the numbers on this one that they're only laying 3, in the Valley, because honestly, Nevada's defense is such a liability. It's going to require probably a 400-yard passing game from Strong to be able to keep them in it and to push them over the top in the fourth quarter. And as you mentioned, all the stats that indicate that Fresno State can really bring it on defense. You also had to factor in they played Oregon earlier in the season. They played UCLA. So they were challenging themselves in the non-conference. This wasn't them feasting on cupcakes and FBS teams, out west. So I agree with you. I think this is a strong play. To be honest, my power rankings had this closer to 6.5, 7. So I do think there's some value in that number. All right, I'm going to jump back to the MAC quickly here. This is a team that I bought low on and I just keep riding, and I will probably through the end of the year. I believe you have a future on Ball State. Ball State's only laying 5.5 against Miami of Ohio. And here's the thing. They've won 3 in a row. Plitt is coming off a game where his QBR was 82. In terms of their 1-2 punch at wide receiver, Justin Hall, Johannes Tyler, they're doing their thing. They also ignited the running game a little bit last week. All of this is trending for me a simple, straightforward, easy play. Ball State. I actually would play this all the way up to 10 to get the alternate line value. I think they're going to outclass Miami of Ohio from an offensive perspective. And this to me is now, at least on the offensive side of things, the team that won the MAC last year. They're showing, their best play calling. The best players are getting the ball in their hands. And Plitt has, pulled out of an uncontrolled dive, which he had earlier in the season where he ended up getting benched. So the confidence is back. I'm going to follow that confidence. I'll go with Ball State. Is there any reason that may have been a stay away for you, or do you think this is a trap situation, or is Ball State really as hot as they appear?
No, I definitely like Ball State too. I agree with you. I think Plitt's playing, but I actually don't have a future on them. I've MAC futures on Kent State to win the East and Western Michigan to win the West. But like I said, I do like Ball State. And I think, Plitt seems like he has turned the corner back to kind of what we saw last year. So I definitely like that play. For my next play, I'm going to return to the MAC as well. Cue the song. I'm going with Eastern Michigan -3 at Bowling Green. Since Eastern Michigan made that switch to Ben Bryant, they have looked very different. They are 3-1 in his 4 games since taking over as the starter. He is averaging 280.2 yards per game. We talked about him being the transfer from Cincinnati. He was backing up Ritter over there. So he comes from a really solid offense. And we know what we're going to get from Eastern Michigan. We know they're kind of, it's their offense is great. Their defense stinks. My best bet last week was the over in that game, and it hit pretty easily. Eastern Michigan is 21st at finishing drives. They're great in passing downs. They create a ton of explosiveness. So I think Eastern Michigan is one of those teams that can kind of move the ball and put up points on anybody. We talked about Bowling Green playing better defense, but they are who we thought they were. They're still Bowling Green. They're still the bottom of the country. They still stink. I don't trust Matt McDonald to be able to throw the ball and keep up with this Eastern Michigan offense. Obviously, the weakness of Eastern Michigan is their defense, and I don't think Bowling Green and Matt McDonald can take advantage of that. He's got 6 touchdowns, 6 interceptions this year. The Bowling Green offense is 114th in the country in success rate. Give me Eastern Michigan. They've looked a lot better over the last couple of weeks. They started the year really bad, but I think they're starting to put it together a little bit more. They're still not a good team necessarily, but for a MAC team playing against Bowling Green, who Bowling Green hasn't beat a MAC team since Akron in like forever. So give me Eastern Michigan -3 at Bowling Green.
For all of the MAC love that we've been throwing around, and our audience certainly loves it, I am going to have to step out a bit and maybe throw some cold water on a team that we
don't you dare. Don't you dare.
Up. So eventually,
don't do it.
Eventually the Roadrunner, is going to run out of, juice a little bit. You can only say meep, meep so many times and run away from everybody. UTSA has earned it. They've deserved it. I hope College Game Day goes to UTSA UTEP. I think it's in a couple weeks. All of Texas, the eyes of Texas should be on what the Roadrunners have accomplished. But they're laying 7 against La Tech. And here's the thing. I'm not sure that a team in the country has a better losing resume than Louisiana Tech. So they lose in a 1-possession game to Mississippi State and Starkville, a game that I believe they gave 3 touchdowns in the fourth quarter to lose by 1. They lost in a single possession games to nationally ranked SMU and NC State. And as I've said many times, UTEP is a good football team. They're going bowling this year. So the fact that they got beat up last week against a very strong Pavito-led defense, got to name drop that defensive coordinator, is not something to scare me off of La Tech as a home dog catching 7. Because here's the thing. we've watched UTSA many times this year. They are susceptible to giving up the big play through the air. Enter Austin Kendall. SMU and NC State in nearly back-to-back games, he hit 7 touchdowns and 692 yards. Those are two, well, at least NC State, that's a good defense. And SMU, he was able to keep them in the game the whole way against one of the most dynamic offenses, not only in the G5, but nationally. So the fact that it got to that key number of 7, it was a difficult board for me. There wasn't a whole lot of games, popping off that I think would be easy layups. So I'm going to go a little bit against the grain here, against the podcast, against UTSA, but hopefully La Tech can get the offense going again after only scoring 3 points last week. Stuckey was on, Twitter, obviously that's where he lives. And he brought up a good point about the Bills and Chiefs game, which was, the public gets swayed so easily, where the Chiefs own Buffalo. So everyone bets on the Chiefs. Then the Bills beat them. The Bills are the hottest team in the NFL. You got to play them blindly against Tennessee, and they lose. It's this seesawing that you have to be able to stomach from a betting perspective. And La Tech, if they had not laid an egg offensively and only scored 3 points last week, I think this game would be under 7. I think it would be easier for me, to probably pass on it. But the fact that there's a little bit of an overreaction, at least in terms of the public perception, I think them catching 7 in Ruston is more than enticing enough for me to go with the Bulldogs.